So David, you have some very interesting letters from the 19th century at your booth that have something to do with some of the famous counterfeits in American history.
That's right. We were lucky enough to acquire a group of 6 letters from the notorious forger Thomas Wyatt. Wyatt is well known to collectors today for coming out with a series of reproductions of New England silver coins, mostly NE shillings and pine tree shillings, but also some other pieces, including the very well-known Good Samaritan shilling, which is actually a fantasy piece. He also had struck some pine tree pennies, which of course don't exist actually. This series of letters traces from June 1856 to when he's very first starting to offer these coins to August, just 2 months later, where he's replying to various denunciations of these coins as being the counterfeits that they were. And it's fascinating because you get this picture of Wyatt in action as he's actually trying to market his wares, saying, oh, these came from a collection. I've been talking to a widow in Chambersburg who has a large collection that we're trying to disperse, or this gentleman in Charleston has a really good collection of these pieces that he's trying to sell. He keeps trying to muddy the waters on where these coins come from and what the story is and what the provenance is. At times he even outright lies and says, oh, well, this NE piece came from the Robert Gilmore collection, which it did not. Most assuredly, he made it, or at the very least caused it to be made. We're a little uncertain on that. But it is a wonderful, wonderful series.
So it's important to remember that in the 1850s, although coin collecting was starting to take off, it was still sort of in a newborn phase in America.
That's absolutely correct. It was really the Civil War years that brought collecting to a much more popular audience. The 1850s, it was a pretty small group, and what was real and what was not real, those were things that a lot of people had no idea of. So when this group hit the market in 1856, a lot of people were very happily snapping them up because here were some well-preserved examples of the earliest American coinage, so to speak.
So they were deceptive fakes at the time.
Oh, absolutely. And these letters clearly demonstrate that they were marketed as such. One of these letters specifically is talking about the Good Samaritan shilling, which there is no such thing as a real Good Samaritan shilling. It's purely a fantasy piece. Another letter talks about pine tree pennies, which again don't exist.
So how often do you come across letters like this that deal with counterfeits?
I've never had letters that were this good. I've seen some contemporary correspondence talking about counterfeit banknotes that you see now and again because it would have been preserved in court records. But something offering counterfeit coins as originals by a well-known forger, clearly signed boldly with his name, no, I've never seen anything quite like it.
And he wasn't